Hey, Joey here. In this video, I'll be doing a walkthrough of the latest update to CNC12 Plasma Restart mode. So these latest updates will be available in 5.2 or newer software versions. I'll go to my F7 utility menu. You can see I'm running Acorn Plasma 5.2. So this is CNC12 version 5.2. This is not only Acorn, but any CNC12 Plasma version will have this updated restart mode. So that's Acorn, Acorn 6, Hickory. Anything CNC12 Plasma will have this updated restart mode. So let's get to it. Let's go ahead and load our job. First job I'm going to run will be the Centroid Plasma logo 20 inches by 4 inches. We can check out the job in the F8 graph job menu. I can click and drag with the mouse, use the scroll wheel to zoom out. And what we see here is the purple dashed line are my soft limits. So you could say that the soft limits based off of my machine coordinate. And then we can see the orange crosshair is my actual torch location at the moment. I just set my work coordinate 0, so if I actually jog the torch off, we can see the work coordinate there. The work coordinate is the white crosshair, and that is where the job is based off of the work coordinate. So we can see our Centroid logo job there, and that's what we'll be testing and demonstrating the latest restart mode features with. So let's get to it. First thing I'll show is, let's say you bring in a job and you just want to jump ahead. Jump to a different part, big nested job, and you just want to do a specific part in the job. What we can do is we can go directly into restart mode. So all we did was load our job, and we'll just press the center restart mode buttons. Because first off, this is the restart mode buttons. When they're highlighted blue, that means you're in restart mode. And to get into restart mode, all we have to do is select this center restart mode button. Alright, so we're in restart mode. Mouse has the same control as the graph menu. I can click and drag, zoom in and out. This comes in handy, big nested job. We can get right in on the part that we're looking for in the job. And so we want to jump ahead, right? Let's say I'm not really worried about the Centroid part of this job. I just want the logo. So what I can do is I can press Select Cut, F6. And what that does is any cut underneath the mouse or closest to the mouse will highlight white. And we can see that the different cuts in the logo are highlighting white. And if I double click, a resume point will drop at the beginning of that cut at the pierce point. So the resume point is the point at which we want to resume the job. And so we see I selected the outside of the cut. The red resume point drops at the pierce point of that cut. Same for this side of the logo. Resume point is dropping at the pierce point. And same for this side. So I'll just double click here, and let's say we just want to jump here in the job and start cutting this logo. All we have to do is press cycle start. And there we go. We are running the job. So I'll bail out. I can go right back into restart mode. And the restart mode now, because we are actually running the job when I stop, it shows where we last interrupted the job or where we stopped at. The purple is the interruption point. So when I press cycle start, that was the purple dot when it dropped. And then it actually decelled to a stop, torch did, past the interruption point. So hence why the blue dot, which is our current torch location, kind of moved just past the interruption point. So that means you can use restart mode even if you cycle cancel, something happens, bail out of the job, we can get right back into it and remembers where we were last cutting at. And so let's say, we bailed out of the job for whatever reason, we're back in restart mode, and I do want to resume the job exactly where I pressed cycle cancel at when we were previously cutting. So now we know we're in restart mode. We see the restart mode buttons are highlighted blue. You can also see those F commands in restart mode. I can now use the traverse button to traverse backwards. So I'll click that. And actually my jog rate is extremely fast right now. So I can just turn down the feed rate. This is going to slow down the speed at which I'm traversing, which is based off of our jog rate. So I'll traverse the torch back forward to the interruption point. And I'll get that blue dot pretty close to the interruption point. Let's just say I'm looking at the table. I see the torch is right above where I stopped cutting at and where I would like to resume cutting at on the torch path. So I'll just zoom in here. Now what we want to do is I could just light the torch here and continue motion. That means it's going to light the torch at a stop and immediately start moving along the torch path, but it's going to be, of course, a slower feed rate, starting movement from a stop. And our kerf width might be a little bit bigger. One way we can solve that is by putting a lead in to resume the job. So a lead in to build speed before we get the torch resumes on the cut path or the torch path. So we got a couple different ways of doing that. We can use the F command and just use the mouse for this. I'll demonstrate that. So we want to put a resume point where our torch is. The resume point, just like before, where the resume point dropped at the pierce, we want to resume on the cut path at right here. So we're going to put a resume point here. So I'll select F2, create resume point. I'll double click right on the dot. And we can barely see, but under there is our resume point. And now let's select a pierce point. So I'll press F3, select pierce point. Oh, that's clear pierce point. F1, create pierce point. And I know I'm going clockwise direction, so I'm going to put my pierce right here in the scrap. And so at the center of this white dot, the torch is going to pierce here and then make a straight line to our resume point, which our resume point we know and we just put over here. So we can demonstrate that. I'll press cycle start. And there you can see the little flat of the lead in there before it re-enters on the resume. So we're going to go right back into restart mode. Alright, so I interrupted that job in a rapid. It pretty much made it to the pierce of this next cut. But let's say we don't have the interruption point here. Let's say nothing happened since our last resume, and let's say I still interrupted over here. What I can do to actually move the torch back onto that torch path, instead of having to traverse, reverse, and go back to the end of this cut and then reverse back up, all I have to do is I can drop a resume point on the torch path over here and use the traverse buttons to then move the torch onto the torch path where the resume point was. So I'll move it a little bit further over. And so now we're kind of back on the torch path where our old resume point was and where we recovered last time. But now I'm going to demonstrate a different way of recovering. And we're going to use the traverse buttons again. I'm going to slow that feed rate down. I'm going to traverse to where I'd like to resume the job, which was right in here somewhere. And instead of dropping a resume point where I want to resume on the torch path and then creating a pierce point with the mouse, I'm going to just do that via jogging and the traverse buttons. So I've already moved the torch where I'd like to resume on the torch path. Now I'm going to create a lead-in. But to do that, all I need to do is jog the torch to where I would like the pierce to begin. So as soon as I jog off the torch path, it's going to drop the resume point there. And now all I'm doing is I'm jogging the torch to where I would like it to pierce and then resume the torch path at the resume point. So I'll put the torch right here where I would like it to pierce. It's going to connect straight to the resume point and continue on the torch path. all I have to do is press cycle start. And once again, there's our kind of flat lead in and resuming on the torch path. So I'm going to just demonstrate a interruption to the job by pressing cycle start. If you have an interruption to the job, say you had a flame out, your hypertherm or your plasma cutter has an error, consumables, air pressure, whatever it is, maybe you had a tip up, a piece of metal came up and tripped the breakaway. When that job interruption happens, CNC12 immediately goes into restart mode. So that's what I just demonstrated. We were moving along the cut path and I just went right into restart mode. So now you might want to check your consumables or your torch. You can jog the torch up. Maybe it's tripped on a piece of metal and the breakaway's tripped. So we're going to jog it up to untrip it. And maybe you're not sure what happened. You want to check the consumables without leaving the job. We can just hit torch check here. And when I press torch check, there's a couple different ways that we can do torch check. Right now, I'm just going to manually jog my torch back to me so I can check the consumables, and then by pressing torch check again, that will send the torch back to where it was when I first selected torch check. You can also, in the wizard, set your G28 to maybe to any machine coordinate. So torch check uses G28, and right now I don't have a G28 coordinate saved, but I could have any machine coordinate saved as my G28 position. So maybe that's closest to me, and when I hit torch check and jog the Z up out of the way to make sure it's clear and safe, and press cycle start, it will send the torch to my pre-selected G28 torch check position. But I'm not really set up for that right now. So what I'll do is I'll just manually jog the Z up, make sure it's safe and it's not going to run into any material, and then I will jog the torch to me. So that's what I'm doing now. Of course, I have a soft limit here, so that's as far as I'm able to go. So I'm just going to jog the torch back to 0, 0, say that's closest to me. I'll check the torch out, make sure everything's good, maybe change consumables, and then I will select torch check again to send the torch back to the position that I first invoked torch check. Alright, so those are the different ways that we can jump ahead and create a lead-in and resume the job with restart mode. Thanks for checking it out.